What up guys, Otterpop here. Okay, so this is a video I've been meaning to complete for a while. I probably should have done it sometime before. It was where I discovered crimescene.com, where it has fictional sites that you can basically solve. And I had a first part of this, which was actually kind of long, so I plan on cutting this part down by quite a bit. What I'm probably going to do is like look at it, but cut that part out of me looking at it, and then discuss what I've read afterwards in a sort of shortened form. Because yeah, the first video was a little bit long, but I was talking basically the entire time, so I really couldn't do anything about that. So I almost couldn't find this because there was something new on crimescene.com, of course, what I was kind of thinking would happen. But I managed to find it in the case archives. So basically, to recap what happened the last time when I tried to solve, or start to solve this at least, was there was a German man who came over to the United States. And he was like a game designer of sorts, but he didn't come alone. He came with like a friend who was also from Germany, who immigrated a long time before. They were using this university place, this university building, as a potential site for one of their like game settings. They ended up meeting this woman who was basically a stripper, who apparently had a relationship with both of them, but didn't tell either of them about those relationships that they had. So there is that. There were a whole bunch of interviews that I looked at and whatnot. Let's see. I looked at the detective's report, I looked at the biography and the interview. Canvas of the groundskeeping staff. Oh wait, no, that's right, that was, okay. I think I was going to go to case files is what I was going to do. Oh, this is a little different. Suspect in custody. Okay, this is very different. Okay, so the incident report. Oh, this is new. Okay, wait, so I'm gonna check something real quick. Case introduction, case recap. Oh no, this is the page that I saw. Okay, so I hadn't looked into I looked at everything else, but I hadn't looked into Investigation Day 2. One of the things I remember from Investigation Day 1 was that on the German guy, Rolf Warner's possession was some kind of, it was a loaded gun, and none of his money, none of his credit cards had been stolen, so it clearly it was most likely not a robbery. And there was a gun, but I don't think there was evidence so far that he was shot. There was no, from what I understand, there was no gunshot residue. But I mean, the possible murder weapon was some kind of large blunt object, like what was it? Some like kind of pickaxe that one of the other guys was going to use. I think it was Ben Moreland. Yeah, talk to the man who found the body. It was Ben Moreland. And he was going to use the axe, but got called away for other stuff. And then he came back, the axe was gone, and then the murdered guy was there. I'm trying to think. So yeah, based on their alibis, they all seem to fit with one another. None of them knew who this guy was. I mean, based on the other information that I gathered, it makes sense. But, okay, so first thing in the morning, the criminal histories or lack thereof of the persons of interest so far in the... So these are all like the groundskeeper people. So... was it Pillar Adams? Wasn't she the one who was like the desk, their bookkeeper lady or something like that? She's only 110 pounds. Oh, but she's 5'2". Never mind. Oh yeah, she's little. She's a little lady. No arrests and convictions, so I mean, nothing too terribly interesting about her. So here we go. 180 pounds male, 5'10". Oh, that's interesting. He does have... Okay, he does actually... Oh wait, he's got a couple of arrests/convictions. Wait, who is this again? Oh, this is Ben Moreland. This is the guy who found the body, if I recall correctly. So he's got one for criminal mischief, which was, wait, okay, this is 2019. Also, something of interest that I noticed, I remember the stripper lady was like, she was born the same year that I was and only a month prior to me, but yet she was identified as being 23 years of age, and this was taking place in February of 2019. I'm not 23 yet, but this lady clearly was, so that was a slight error in continuity. It's probably not a huge deal, you know, in terms of a fictional case and all, but it was just something that I thought about. So, anyways, destruction of private property. Oh, he was sentenced for 6 months and then a year. So yeah, this took place like 3+ years ago, almost 3+ years ago, basically. The destruction of private property and then criminal mischief, it's nothing, it might make some people suspicious, but it's nothing that seems overly worrisome, because most people, they don't just jump, well, in terms of criminals anyways, they don't just jump from one place to another. They don't jump from criminal mischief to like murder or something like that. They generally, if they commit crimes, they're generally going to be relatively similar to one another in terms of both type as well as, you know, degree. Like, you know, simple criminal mischief versus, you know, felonies. Steve Potter. So this, I think this is the second guy who came across the body, who like heard Moreland screaming or something like that. He's got something, oh, he's got something too. It looks like marijuana possession charges. He was sentenced for 2 years. Okay, so he's only been out for a little less than a year, but again, it's nothing that's unusual, or at least it doesn't make me suspect him, honestly. So Swift, this is the weird guy who doesn't really, well, he's got a conviction too. Disturbance of the peace? What did he do? Oh, this was a little more recent. Like, this was only a couple months ago. Oh, 6 years community service. That's probably why he's working there anyways. Terroristic threatening. Jeez. What the heck? That's a little bit odd. I mean, there's really nothing else against him so far. They spoke with one of the Roanoke tour guides. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I ended up learning something relatively interesting. So this was a tour lady. Yeah, this was a tour lady who, so apparently Rolf Warner and both of his associates, I don't remember the other man's name, but then the stripper as well, the three of them were apparently in a tour on February 14th, which, if I remember correctly, is the day before the guy was murdered. But they were on a tour, and the two men were happy with each other, and stripper woman just looked kind of annoyed, like she wanted the tour to be over or something like that. But apparently this tour guide woman saw the victim talk with the curator, and they seemed to have it seemed to start out relatively friendly, but they seemed to have an argument over time, in which the curator got really mad at the victim for some reason. She doesn't know why either, but it's just really interesting. So they looked into a background of another person associated with the museum, as in Broadwell. No, this is the curator. So they looked into him as well. I assume that they probably looked into him. Geez, they probably looked into him. Like after this interview took place with the tour guide lady. Simple assault? Wow. Okay, that's a little unusual. False reporting of a crime? Disturbance of the peace. Okay, so for falsely reporting a crime, nothing really happened, but he was charged with disturbance of the peace and with simple assault. Okay. Given the fact that they had an argument, that is a little bit suspicious. Okay, the Roanoke Curious. So this is Linus Broadwell. Yeah. Okay, so he's a bit of an artist and like an art slash book slash antique collector. So nothing too. I mean, obviously, I've got most of this information in my head, but nothing too unusual. Okay, so here's the interview. I'm gonna read through this one as well. Okay, so this interview definitely took a turn. I will say first that the way that this guy is, the way that this guy is speaking, it's not suspicious really, but it just kind of makes him come off as annoying more than anything else. Like he's using all this sort of proper language, and like he was being a little bit on the defensive and unreasonable side of things, but okay, so the woman, the tour guide lady, had basically said she saw the curator, Broadwell, have an argument with the victim, Rolf Warner. But Broadwell is claiming that such a thing never happened, and he seemed to get a bit defensive once the police mentioned that he had something of a record on him. And in a couple of instances, I think the police may have been jumping the gun just a slight bit on the information, but it's kind of reasonable to suspect that, you know, jeez, I don't know, something about, he's still remaining on the defensive. He's never met this guy, but clearly there's testimony to prove otherwise, and I don't know, it's more of a feeling than anything else, but I'm more inclined to believe the tour guide lady than I am this guy at the moment, especially with what he said and whatnot. All investigators look for witnesses who saw Gus. Oh, Gus, that's the other guy's name. Okay. Okay, so based on the alibi and the time frame, it seems that a lot of these people did see Gus Heller coming back from what seemed like after he and Warner separated, and he seemed to be like pacing and talking angrily to himself, which it seems a lot more characteristic of it seems a lot more characteristic of them having an argument. I wondered if this was maybe personal, because again, nothing was taken from the victim at all. So I was wondering if it was personal, but I don't think that it was Gus. Like as much tension as there was between them, I don't think that he had anything to do with it. I'll talk to the man who reportedly took Lita. Oh, Lita, that's the stripper woman. I gotcha. Oh, don't you look nice. Okay then. Okay, so this is interesting. So this guy has clearly been involved with the police for a while, which, based on his word usage, is not very surprising. Based on how he uses his words, though, he seems confident, and he actually seems to be telling the truth and being fairly chill and honest. But it's weird because he mentioned that he implied that there might be a connection between Ben and Lita, the stripper. So, interesting. No, I don't think he would have killed Rolf Warner. Really, autopsy findings. So yeah, no, it seems that Lita and this guy were at breakfast the morning of Rolf's murder for quite a while. Yeah, autopsy was performed at 2 p.m. So this autopsy report is interesting. So the time of death, according to various factors, body temperature, rigor and livor mortis, and other factors, which is accurate in terms of forensics anyways, that is what is used to determine, or at least guess, time of death, was somewhere between 9 and 10, which makes sense given the image of the body. There was a sharp force trauma, meaning that it still bugs me that there was a gun there. Like, why? Unless that's just like a red herring detail that I'm looking too much into, but then again, I'm trying to remain as unbiased as possible. But, yeah, so there was sharp force trauma, meaning that that bloody pickaxe, I'm pretty sure it was a pickaxe, was very likely the murder weapon, which absolutely makes sense. There was something that I was thinking about. Okay, so it keeps saying the left side of the head and left orbit, and I feel like I remember seeing the guy's wound in terms of the image on this side of the head, which is technically the right. Hold on, I'm gonna look up something real quick. Oh no, it was the left side anyways. So I mean, it is most likely that whoever it was right-handed. If it was left-handed, that would certainly be more interesting. Fingerprints found. Where were fingerprints found? Recovered from the crime scene. Wait. Oh, they did find. Wait, there were 4 partial prints on the handgun. There were 4 of them, consistent with Rolf Warner. Rebelin room key. It makes sense that all 3 of them would have that. Set of car keys. It would make sense that Gus's prints would be on there. The memory cards. Rolf Warner. There are a couple of unidentified prints that aren't associated with Gus or Rolf. Passport. Wait, there are more unidentified prints. Wallet. One of Lita's prints were found on his wallet. That's a little interesting. Okay then. That. Oh boy. That right there. The pickaxe. It would make sense that Ben Moreland's prints would be on there, given his alibi and the alibi of the others as well. There wasn't now that I think about it, unidentified might just be that they were able to find a print but they couldn't match it with anybody because it was too messy or too partial or something like that. The curator's prints were found on the pickaxe. I will be honest, based on the evidence thus far, well, based on the interviews too, I suppose, Broadwell was kind of at the top of my list of suspects. But the fact, there's no reason that his prints would be on that pickaxe based on what he does. There's no reason for it. The camera, Rolf and Gus. Yeah, that's absolutely, it's not necessarily proof, but it definitely leads towards suspicious and suspect. Brought one of the suspects in for another interview. Yeah, the fingerprint results raised a few questions. Of course they would. Man, you are kind of digging your own grave by saying that your staff are the one who handle everything else on the grounds, like shrubs and weeds and rocks and whatnot. Does he not know that his prints were found on the axe? Because unless they were planted, there's no reason that he would have had his fingerprints on that weapon. Because I'm pretty sure it's pretty much confirmed to be the weapon at this point. He's like trying to say that the labs made a mistake, but trust me, I know what it's like. I've been in sort of mock cases where I personally had to try and remove fingerprints from multiple objects of evidence. Most of them didn't pan out. Most of them you couldn't even get a whole lot of good details on it. Only some of them you could, but as long as you could get enough details, that's usually pretty much confirmation, whether it's partial or a full fingerprint. it's pretty much confirmation. I mean, a part of it is bias, especially when it comes to fingerprints. There's so much variety. There are so many variables when it comes to fingerprints. It's kind of crazy. But if they were, because again, in the list of fingerprints that they had, some of them were labeled as unidentified, which means that they were able to lift a print, but they couldn't get enough details on it to do an accurate comparison. So maybe they got like 2 or 3 details, but it wasn't strong enough evidence to label it as a match. I personally tried to use, what was it, if I recall correctly, like 10 points of comparison is what I would have as a confirmed print. Because if I remember when I was doing that case, I lifted at least 10 prints, but I would have said only like 4 of them were usable, and they were all partials as well. I'll add at that. One of them it was clear enough that I was able to make probably like 12 to 14 points of comparison that matched up. And for the other three prints, it was maybe max of like 7 or something like that. But only one of them was I actually considered a confirmed print. And this is a similar kind of situation with something like this, is that if it's unidentified, there are not enough points of comparison. But if, like full or partial prints, if there are enough points of comparison, they are basically confirmed to be those. And again, part of it is kind of bias. It kind of depends on who's looking at the prints, because machines can't really do that. There's too much variety in fingerprints for machines to be able to do that on their own. They need people to look at them. Typically in police or sheriff's departments, individuals in law enforcement who observe prints will ask other individuals to confirm, or maybe ask for a second opinion, but either way, hi Houdini. But yeah, either way, I mean, there's just nothing more I can say at that point. I feel like I'm just kind of repeating myself at this point. Yeah, Broadwell's basically calling these guys a liar, despite the fact his prints were found. See, why did this guy have a problem with? He didn't explain it. Why did Broadwell have a problem with Warner making the video game? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here's like, oh, this is only a few days later, like 2 days later, I think. This is a newspaper clipping. He was arrested. Or no, this is day 3, never mind. Day 1 was Friday the 15th. Day 2 was the 16th. Okay, whoops. Mitigating circumstance that justifies actions. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really see any noticeable evidence that suggested that Warner initially attacked Broadwell. Yeah, Gus was outraged at the possibility that Broadwell claimed self-defense. Yeah, based on various accounts, and I understand that it's mostly hearsay, but based on various accounts that I've read, Warner wasn't a violent individual. I don't think he initially attacked Broadwell, and there wasn't any noticeable. I feel like if he initially tried to attack Broadwell, there may have been like even just a little hint of something in his autopsy report, like maybe something on his hands, or maybe or even when they first talked to Broadwell on the day of the murder, like, his clothes weren't unusually misshapen or something like that, or something, but yeah, I mean, after that interview with that guy, I am not surprised that it was him, actually. Because yes, there were some individuals who had some odd, like, you know, criminal backgrounds or something like that. Nothing stood out to me until they looked it up. Until they looked up the background of the curator. And once they did that, like, what was it again? It was yeah, simple assault is kind of what initially made me think about it. And then reading his interview, he was a bit annoying, but I was a slight bit suspicious because he was completely denying what, you know, the tour guide was saying. And again, like, not all victims are necessarily honest, but plenty of them actually usually are. So it's all about following as many leads as you possibly can to try and find the truth. Like, even if, you know, say the guy is a total criminal and he probably can't be trusted, you at least want to follow their lead to see if maybe any evidence leads that way as well. And it kind of turned out, on a separate note, that they did after Broadwell's fingerprints were found on the axe. Like, I noticed all these, you know, unidentified Gus, Rolf, Warner, and stuff like that. And then I saw his name regarding the axe. And I'm thinking to myself, that's very suspicious. Like, at first it was just kind of unusual evidence and, you know, hearsay or interviews. But this was basically solid, concrete evidence. He tried to be all defensive and stuff, but I don't know. Just based on his interview and how he talked, I still don't trust him. Like, he may be claiming self-defense, but according to various interviews and reports, I don't think that he did that. I think that this was Broadwell, but even so, there was no immediate explanation for why Broadwell decided to do this. So, anyways, that was definitely interesting. I'm gonna have to look into another one of these at some point, and hopefully this video will be a lot shorter. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more in terms of actually solving a crime before, or no, because if I recall correctly, weren't investigation days 2 and 3? I think they were already available, so I wonder if they just post the case as a whole already on the page. Like, maybe it's just... No, I still think it's just interesting to look at all the evidence to see where it goes and to kind of make your own conclusions and to see if you're right. Like, I find that to be a very fascinating concept, and I'm going to have to do another one of these sometime because that was actually fairly entertaining. Maybe next time I can actually... Nah, I still might divide it up into, like, you know, 2-part episodes, like, per case or something like that. Especially if there's more information than this. You know, this on my page. Or, wait, where am I? This. Hey! Stop it. You need to stop clawing at them. Don't yell at me. I'm having an argument with the cat right now. With one of the cats. Okay then. So yeah, anyways, I'm definitely gonna have to do another one of these at some point. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to divide them up into like 2-parter episodes or something, because otherwise that's gonna be a lot of information to edit, you know, in terms of me reading it. Well, I guess it wouldn't be too much, but I don't want to make the videos too long. But anyways, this was definitely, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do another one of these sometime. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and as usual, until the next video guys, check you laters.